Okay, welcome back to another fun episode of Life with me and my wife. She is the most beautiful woman ever, and we have more to talk about today. We're discussing, we're talking, and we're talking about life. And I want to give more of a understanding of who we are to prepare this message for the masses, for everybody to understand some of who we are. That way we can have a really good understanding of who we are. I said that like a lot of times. Anyway, I'm going to start with my wife.
So, what do you want to know? Or what do you want me to share?
You can share whatever you want to share. It's just you and me and the world to come. So, where are we? How do we get here? Let's backpedal.
Well, it all started on a hot summer day. Remember that hot summer day?
It was a summer day, and there was a temperature.
It was hot.
It was hot.
You're the one that started it all. You should probably be the one to start.
I want your perspective, if you don't mind.
Okay, well, I was walking one way in the store, in the mall, actually, and my friend at the time was like, these guys are following us. So I said, well, let's go into New York and Company, because at least we get kidnapped, they're going to be some more witnesses. And they'll see us walking in the store, and they'll see the people that walked in behind us too. So that's what we did. We walked into New York and Company, and then I heard an "excuse me, miss," and I thought it was a security guard. And I was like, I know I didn't steal anything. I didn't put anything in my bag. Who is this behind me, and what do they want? So I turned around, and there it was you. And you were like, I want to just tell you that you're the most beautiful person I've ever seen. And I was waiting for the cameras to, somebody was going to pop out and be like, you have no comments. Because in my mind, I was still sitting here thinking, what do you want? And I just said, okay. And you're like, I just want to tell you that. And I looked at my friend, and she was just smiling, and I was like, I don't know what's going on right now. I'm confused. And then
The rest is history. We got married, had kids, and now we live in a house. And we have careers.
Mm-hmm.
But there's so much more to the story. And I think that story is going to be revealing itself in due season. Because we were in different places, but we found each other.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that in the process of finding each other, we found out who God wanted us to be.
I think I'm still trying to figure that out sometimes.
I agree. I am too. That's a process. But I think that's a part of the faith walk that we are on as well. So, today, as we are getting more understanding of who we are and the people out here in the world that will be viewing this, understanding who we are, why are we doing what we're doing? Why are we here? I think we are here not just to have conversations with people that can't be around us, but to actually help other couples, families, friends get some really good guidance just through shared experiences. And I think the more that we know about other people and their struggles and how they dealt with life, it can actually help people wherever they are in their life. Because we've gone through some things in life and we still have some places to go to. So I want us to really share, and this is going to get processed because never done anything like this before. Not on a live set that's in our home and sharing with an audience. So it's going to be a whole new world, to quote Aladdin and them.
Aladdin and them.
That's Aladdin and them. Who wrote that song?
I couldn't tell you.
I want to find out who wrote that song.
Pretty deep if you actually listen to the words.
It is deep. And we were on a journey to see a whole new world when we kind of linked up. I know I was.
Yeah, you were going on a whole new literal journey.
Life was really new for me. Never been to Texas, never been to Houston, never been anywhere. Everything I did was the first time for me when I first got here to Texas. So a whole new world it was and it still is. So shout out to whoever wrote that song for Aladdin and them.
Aladdin and them. They have brought a whole new world.
A whole new world. I want to hear a remix.
Wow.
A remix. You know they've been remixing all the movies. They just did the new movie with Will Smith for Aladdin and them. That ain't the name of it. What's the name of it?
It's named Aladdin.
Aladdin. Okay.
Yeah, they ain't named Aladdin and them.
You know it's the black version. It's Aladdin and them.
It's not Aladdin and them. It's Aladdin and them.
Aladdin and them.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway.
Lord Jesus.
They need a remix with the song. You know, we need a trappy remix. Yeah.
Who would you want to sing it?
Ooh. I would like a crossover between two genres. Cause the whole movie is complete Eastern.
Yes.
So I would like a crossover. I want to hear whoever's popular out in the Mideast, you know. Burna Boy. Yeah. Burna Boy.
Oh my gosh.
I would say Burna Boy and I think I want 3 people. Burna Boy for one, because he just different all together. I like him. I like his vibe.
Toby Mac.
No, not Mac.
Oh.
Nwige. Did I say his name right?
I would be failing you if I told you this.
Okay. Well, him, Toby, Burna Boy, and you need somebody to kind of balance them out. I would put Hovey in there.
But Toby and Burna Boy are in very similar genres.
Yeah.
But you said you want people from different genres.
Well, Burna Boy is completely different as far as the vibe and the type of feel he gives. In my brain, it is. And then Hovey from Reach Records.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I think I would do Burna Boy. I'm down with the Burna Boy. Not Burna. Burna Boy. He's alright with me.
You got your finger burnt the other day.
Let's not bring up old stuff. I would do Burna Boy. I would probably do oh my gosh, Burna Boy, Corinne Hawthorne, because you know you gotta get there's a female part too in Aladdin, the song.
Yeah, there is. Mm-hmm.
So I would do Burna Boy. I would do Corinne Hawthorne, and then I would probably just do those two. Honestly,
I wouldn't be mad at that. I picked three because I feel like if you're doing like a crossover remix type vibe, I think you're just adding an extra person in there just to kind of help with the vibe. Anyway, that's my take on that, because when we got together and we met, it was complete crossover. You're from Texas, I'm from South Carolina, and those two are really far apart as far as cultures. And I think that we mesh really well. And I think the more different, is that a double negative? More different?
no, it's not considered double negatives if you have two negative words that are put together.
I think the more different that you are with the same goals and like-mindedness, I think the better that you mesh.
Tell me what you mean. Like, give me some more detail on that.
You're always cold, I'm always hot. In a literal sense. You're in a blanket right now, and I'm completely comfortable. I can have the house at 70 degrees, and I will be fine with the fans on. In a literal sense. So
the more differences that we have, the better we are together.
With the same like mind. Same goals, like mindedness. Peanut butter and jelly. One is really thick and chalky. I would never instinctively go eat peanut butter just out the jar. I don't like peanut butter, but in any case, I've seen some people do that, but I wouldn't do it. Like, I need to have something added to it. The jelly is sweet, it's a little bit smoother, so they pair well together.
What's funny is when you said that, I'm saying here, like when you said you wouldn't go to a jar of peanut butter to do that, in my mind I'm like, you're missing out on life.
No, so you eaten peanut butter right out of the jar before? Wow. Here we go. All right. Learning more about my wife. Didn't know that you like peanut butter on that level.
Yeah, I used to that. I mean, just take a knife and...
Nah, player. No.
I mean, I wouldn't go as far as like on a spoon. It's just, you have to have like the right ratio. Like, just a...
Yeah, I'm good. Just never been a... I grew up on jelly sandwiches.
Just jelly?
Just jelly. On some Merita white bread.
Merita?
Merita white bread,
that
yeah.
Sounds like someone's name.
Yeah, I'm sure it is, but that's the bread. That's the brand. Shout out to Merita and them. Merita and them.
Wow, I've never seen Merita.
Ooh-wee. All in South Carolina, Merita bread. And that was the bread that I grew up on. That, some jelly. Yeah. You never had Merita bread? I'm going to get you some Merita bread. It's bread. I mean...
Is it like Wonder Bread?
It could be close in comparison. We need to do a poll. Who grew up on Wonder Bread? Who grew up on Merita bread? Or any other type of bread that you grew up on? Shout out.
Time out.
Okay.
So, so in South Carolina, did y'all have like little like bakeries, and it would be like, or like a bread shop, and I'm not talking about like your mom and pop like bread shop. I'm talking about like imagine like something that's literally like half the size of a Dollar Tree, and you sell nothing but bread and like muffins, but it's all packaged already. Like Hostess brands are in there.
Krispy Kreme.
Krispy Kreme was not in there.
No, that was the bread shop for us. That was on
donut shop, bro.
That bread.
No,
that's the only thing
I'm talking about. Like, and they would sell like loaves of bread. They would sell like Wonder Bread, they would sell like different, like Nature's brand or something like that. But it was just like, that's like, you could go and you could buy your bread from there and it's cheaper, or you could buy it from Kroger or HEB. Like, did y'all have that at all?
First of all, there's no HEB in South Carolina. It probably won't ever be because it's a Texas store. Love HEB. Kroger was like an expensive store. Like, I didn't go into Kroger till I got to high school, and that was on accident. And
really,
yeah, we got Piggly Wiggly, okay, Food Lion, Giant Food World.
Giant Food World.
Yeah.
I've never seen that since we've been there.
Yeah.
They still have it?
I believe it's still there somewhere, maybe. And the other big one, Publix. You've been to Publix?
Yes.
Now, Publix, that was like the huge place. You know, Walmart was kind of everywhere, but Publix was like a huge, huge deal. Like, it was just like, I never even went to Publix on purpose. I've probably been there one time, and that's after I got like out of high school and stuff. Like, but as far as a bread shop, I don't. In my memory, I can't remember going to a bread shop. I said Krispy Kreme because that's the closest thing that we went to for a bread shop where you have fresh stuff being made. Like, I remember going there and pull up through the drive-through with my mom. We get the big old box of Krispy Kremes, and it just, the aroma just smelled up everything, and I'm like, man, just.
But that's donuts. It's not like sliced bread.
No, it's not sliced bread.
Yeah, so it's a donut shop.
No.
No. So
we went to the grocery store and we went to the bread aisle.
Oh.
And that was about it.
Got it.
That was about it. I didn't really know about fresh baked bread until I really started diving in on cooking a lot. And I would see like bread deliveries come in. And it wasn't even nothing prevalent. It was just like hamburger buns and, you know, hot dog buns and the low level restaurants that I worked in South Carolina when I was just growing up and just starting to get into the cooking thing. And then when I got here to Texas and I started really going further into cooking, that's when like I started to learn a little bit more about breads and baking. Now my dad, he'll make a cake, you know. I knew about baking cakes and pies just from watching him, but other than that, when you talk about making breads, that's a whole nother science other than making cakes and pies and stuff like that. Sure. And that is like, that's a lot too. Just the whole journey of cooking. That's what really kind of carried me over to really get out of South Carolina. I was cooking in multiple restaurants. Started at, what's the restaurant? Started at Russia's, and man, that place was good. A lot of life experience. I still remember the people I worked with when I was working there.
The fried chicken place, right?
Fried chicken and burgers and hot dogs.
That's right.
Yeah.
So we went there with your dad.
Ooh wee, that place right there was. It was good, great, and horrible all at the same time. And I mean, a lot of memories, a lot of experiences. This is always gonna be memories and experiences in your first job. But for me, it was like really diving into like learning about an industry that I only seen from the other side of the counter. And in any case, yeah, cooking brought me to Texas and the opportunity to do something different. You know, my brother offered me the chance to come down here to live with him when he was stationed in Fort Hood, so came down here, was cooking for multiple places, fast food and the Applebee's and Chili's, and then I finally got a job working on the Army base, and again, another great experience just working with people from all over, and that was fun and crazy and tiring and impactful.
How was it impactful?
Wow. I mean, when you move, I was a teenager. You know, the only experience that I had from cooking was what I learned in previous restaurants and what I experienced with my own family. And like just doing it on my own and watching my dad. So everything I was able to do freely as far as cooking, it was just based on my own experience. They gave us a couple opportunities to make stuff. And the one time I got in the kitchen, they gave me like the main dish to make. I don't know if I ever told you this, but I remember it vividly. Like, I don't know what it was, but they was like, hey, we need to make this amount of food for these soldiers, and they about to go out on the field. And they're like, Jones, you got the main dish. All right. I said, bring me some pork chops. I did some pepper steak, but I did it with pork chops. So seasoned sausages, like I remember frying them up on a flat top grill. And man, our dining facility was prestigious. I mean, it was so clean. Everything looked brand new. Like we didn't even cook on anything. It was just really, really, really clean all the time. That was just the standard. That was the standard. And man, just cooking in there and like having people that were older than me, like been in the cooking industry for a longer period of time, to actually eat my food and taste it. And they gave me a lot of like kudos and props, because they were like, man, we never seen anything like this before. And I thought it was just like common
knowledge.
Yeah, I thought it was just like something that, you know, everybody had kind of experienced. But again, just coming from a different state and having different experiences with other people that's come from all over, you know, mainly most people I knew there, they were just like, you know, locals from Texas, and learn from them, and just having that experience was really, really interesting. It was good and bad experiences. I was working so much that I was just dog tired. I remember falling asleep on the way home and on the way to work because I was working 2 jobs. So, but I didn't know anything other than work. I didn't have anybody other than my brother. I didn't know anybody. I didn't have any friends. I was trying to make friends, and it was a lonely, hard time. But it was a really humbling opportunity because I was just completely out of my comfort zone, away from all my family. And looking back on it now, I know God was trying to do something different in me. And
doesn't He always like separate you to do that?
Yeah, I was really set aside, and I was put in really small cocoon type of areas where I was being developed by Him. Because that opportunity, working in those dining facilities, would eventually take me overseas. And wow.
You know, it's funny because I think about this a lot, just the power, and not the power, but just the opportunities that like snowball into other opportunities just by saying yes. Right? Like if you wouldn't have, because God had it in you to do something different. Like you weren't meant to stay in Colombia, right? If you were meant to stay there, then He would have planted you and rooted you there to carry out whatever it is that you need to carry out, right? But He put it in you to go out and do something different because, you know, all the generations before, I mean, you and your brother are the only ones that left, right? And, you know, if that was never put in you, then, you know, you'd still be back there doing God knows what. But God put it in you to, you know, do something different, and you're obedient to that, you know. And I think God does that a lot with with us, we are His chosen people. When we get to understand that, then we operate differently and we make different choices. But knowing that we are His chosen people, and when we say yes to that, then the trajectory of your life changes. Is when you say yes and you allow God to really order your steps, you're never gonna be the same, because He takes you to places that you never in 1,000 years would have thought you'd have gone to.
Yeah, we're seeing that now. where we are where we are currently in life. And I know that it's just interesting to share stories with you, because sharing different experiences, we still learn about each other and the actions, decisions, and everything else that we made in the time when we made the actions and decisions. So you recently shared your story with some of our people, and as I was listening to you share your story, I was just really captivated just to see like how you emphasize on certain areas of your life in sports and education, and your mom like were like the reoccurring themes in God overall. The reoccurring themes, and it's really interesting just to again reflect on when I was listening to your story, and I'm thinking about what we're doing now here. Like, I want to utilize everything that I have to share stories that we've experienced, like personally experienced, because that's exactly what people in the Bible did. Like, they went through life and their experiences were shared with everybody, and it all came back to how God was just there in every point, good and bad. I was just reading in Kings this morning, listening to my devotional, and like every king, like after one king from a certain descendant, like the story starts off the same. This king came into power after this king, and like God didn't like it, because God didn't like them, mainly because they weren't doing what they were supposed to do. They was doing the same things that their fathers did. And like their father did the same thing. They worshiped these guys. Like this king, he did good. He tore down this idol, but he still did this wrong.
Right.
And like it was, and they said generation after generation, this generation and this generation, and it's the same reoccurring thing. And I feel like now, where we are in our lives, like once we really sit down and think about where we're trying to go, with not just us as a marriage unit, but where is this next generation going as far as the kids we're raising, the kids we're mentoring, kids we're teaching, where in the world are the real true leaders of new generations? Because I know if I think about my granddad, like my dad's dad, I had a conversation with my dad about his dad a few years ago, and he gave me some real key insider stuff, because I'm trying to figure out, okay, a little bit more about my family history, but about who I am by listening to the history.
Yeah.
Because you don't know your history, you'll probably end up repeating it.
Right.
So listening to my dad talk about his dad, and him giving me some key points, and now I'm thinking about how my dad was raised, and then I think about how I was raised, and now I'm looking at some of the things that I went through, and I'm like, well, there's a certain generational issue that's being reoccurring. Mm-hmm. So I know for a fact there's certain things I need to tackle head on. And as I'm tackling those things head on, like, I'm really hoping to perpetuate a new change for the next generation. Sure. Because I don't want our daughters to do the same thing that my granddad did.
Sure.
Because they never met their granddad. They're never going to meet him. They're never really going to know who he was as a person, like the decisions that he made, why he made his decisions, how that affected my dad, how that affected me, because those things really, truly matter.
Yes, it does.
And once we have a clear understanding of who we are, but more importantly, who God is trying to develop us to be, then I feel like then we can make a generational change, because that's what really makes a big difference. Like, it was a generation that actually did what God wanted to do, and He was happy with them. But they made some mistakes. But that's the more important part, why Jesus came and why grace is so important. But for me, for us in our house, like, we know what we're going to do, and this is a part of that.
Yeah. Well, so you bring up, like grandparents and great grandparents, right? And something I didn't share when I was telling my story was that, on one side, I have grandparents that, the Archbishop of East Africa, leaders in the community and education in the country, like church in East Africa in general and in Kenya, like, these are like, on one side of my family, we come from leadership. That's just like embedded in our DNA.
Right.
That's all that honestly is known on that side. And when you say that last name, in the town, I mean, it spreads. Everybody knows who you are and the family you come from.
Right.
On the other side, comes from a family of royalty, right? Which that's a side that I never knew, never really understood, right? But that family of royalty also comes from a background of Muslim. And that in itself, you have a Muslim family and a Christian family, two complete opposite ends of the spectrum. And so I know my Christian side, but I don't know my Muslim side, because my Muslim side, that stopped with my grandparents who passed away, and I never met them, so I never had any idea of who they were, what their life was like, nothing. But they were not any. They weren't ones that ended up over here in America on either side of my families, right? So like the native side of me runs very deep, like it's in Kenya and it's in Nigeria, right? And I know that, right? And so I can only imagine like what it feels like to have those generations born here, right? And only know of here, not knowing where you came from, right? Because we didn't come over here by choice, right? A lot of people were forced over here, but my family was not one of those families, So to me, it takes me to a place of like, I know this side of me, and I know I have a better understanding now as an adult of like this side of me. I don't know this side of me, but I can understand the struggles that you, or even just like the questions and like the inquisitiveness that you have to learn more about both sides of you, like the people that made you, like who, like where did they come from? And then where did their people come from? And just to find out your roots and to know like truly like who you are, Now, I also think, it's really important to know, like, we search in this life for this identity, of like, we go to school so that we can have a career in something, and that career can easily become our identity, right? But something that's so important to remember is like, what we do is not our identity, right? Our identity is in who created us. And two people got together and created us, but somebody created the people that even created them, and so forth, right? There's somebody that did that, right? And God is the ultimate of where it all started. So, I just encourage you, like, to know, like, looking at like these generational things and seeing, like, I want my girls to have this, or I want my kids to have this. I don't want my kids to have this. I don't want my girls to have this from me. I think the generational leaders have to understand the importance of helping kids in that next generation know where their identity lies. And if their identity lies in something that changes, something that is not consistent, something that does not show you grace, something that is not pure and true love, then what are you teaching them? Because you're teaching them a false sense of who they are and who they are created to be, and whose they are.
Yeah.
Right? So, I just, when you said, like, where are those generational leaders, like, that's you, that's me, that's people we choose to surround our kids with. That, and understanding, like, we are leaders in what we do. We have a mind of excellence in what we do, but we have that because of who God has created us to be, simply by us being obedient and saying yes, right? And if we didn't say yes, then we would still be trying to do it based on how we think and how we feel, right? And that's just, that's what a lot of, unfortunately, how a lot of things operate today is just, people want to be the ones to be seen, to be known, right? But God is the one that needs to be seen. God is the one that needs to be known. And if whatever I'm doing does not point back to God, I don't want it. If who I'm hanging around does not point me back to God, I don't want to be around him. And at times that's a hard pill to swallow, because not everybody fully understands that. And people want to be like, why are you acting funny? Why aren't we spending time together? Like, why this? Like, you're asking the wrong question, and you're worried about the wrong thing.
You're worrying about the wrong thing. That's true. Yeah, I like it. Yeah, so those experiences, good and bad, like we talked about before, they definitely not just pointed me in certain directions, but helped shape the way I perceive and think. So it's a lot that we have to offer.
Yes, there is. And a lot of people, I've started to notice, a lot of people don't understand that and don't appreciate it.
Yeah. I really, I've been hearing that word excellence, like in my spirit.
Oh my gosh.
You've been saying it. You've been saying it like the other day. I've heard it. What really triggered it in me, okay, it's always been like a part of, how I try to do things, but like more recently, like I've been having it instilled inside my spirit. Okay, I was listening to my music. I forgot where I was going, but I don't know, it was something that I think the Holy Spirit kind of prompted me to listen to one of my favorite songs by Sho Baraka, which is Excellence.
Yes.
And I love that song. Anytime I hear that song, it's like a whole new motivation to me.
Yes.
Just to do it better and do it again.
Yes.
And like don't stop until it's done to a degree of excellence.
Yes, 100%.
Yes. And I think when I heard it the other day, like, okay, it was after one of the conferences I was in as far as the coaching goes, and I think one of the speakers was like, you need to have like a common theme or something that you want to like instill, for your group of boys.
Yep.
And automatically it was like, it's just going to be excellence. Like, we're going to do this. It's just going to be excellence to the T, and that's just a part of like how I try to do things. Like, when it's time for me to learn to do something and try to get something down, I want to be able to do it and be excellent at it.
Amen.
Because that's just like, I believe that's just what God put inside me.
Yes.
And
Amen.
it's been that way for a long time, and it's like really, how can I put it? It's like, I don't want to say it's a gift and a curse. It's not a curse, but it's like, once I put my head to something, like,
yes.
I want to keep doing it until it's done right.
Yes.
And I don't want to stop doing it until
yes.
it's completely done right, and that's just like the type of drive I have, even with what we're doing in the business. Like, there's certain things I want to do that's excellent. I ain't got the budget to do it like I want to do it, but I want to do it to a degree where it's going to be really, really excellent. So that was like something that God really spoke to me in my spirit. Like, for the boys that I'm gonna be coaching this year, like, we're gonna stick to this, and it's gonna be excellent. And I know that was the word that you had spoke several times, because that's kind of the standard right now for this upcoming season we're going into.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny because I was talking to someone earlier this morning, and we were talking about if like what are like your what are your specific symptoms of like burnout, right? And what led to it was learning, like, doing a reflection of like procrastination leads to mediocrity, and mediocrity leads to stress, right? And so, what we learned was the fact of like really reflecting in it, and like looking at ourselves and saying, are we mediocre people? And the immediate answer was no. And so then the next question was, well, if we're not mediocre people, why are we putting out mediocre work, right? Why are we doing things to a level of mediocrity when we're not mediocre people, right? So then, the term excellence came up again, and we were like, defining what does excellence mean. Let me actually share that definition with you, because when we read it, it was like, it makes sense. So the term excellence,
you getting the Hebrew, the Greek, or the Aramaic, or you doing Webster?
I'm up Oxford Languages.
Oxford.
Yes.
Okay.
So the quality of being outstanding or extremely good, right? So we paused there because, we said, well, does that mean doing it right all the time? He said, no, because that's perfection, right? And we're not perfect people. And if we are always aiming towards a level of perfection, then we're going to fail, right? Because that's something that's not achievable all the time, that's maintainable. Excellence, you can maintain that, right? You can achieve that. And what's excellent for you is going to look different from me, because we're different people, right? But understanding like
that's
that
deep
mindset of excellence, when you have that mindset, then you go about doing things differently. Now you start saying, okay, if I have that mindset of excellence, when I'm doing this school assignment, I'm not going to procrastinate, because that's not what I do, right? That's not being excellent. That's being mediocre. If I want to go into a new season, I'm going to have to do things differently. So now I'm going to set a timeline of when I have to hold myself accountable to, because this is my responsibility, right? And taking ownership of that was so powerful in our conversation, because now it's like, okay, so we look at that realm of, or that locus of control, right? And then there's that locus of things that we can't control, right? We focus on the area that we can control, that realm of things that we can't control. We have to learn how to let that go. When we start looking at that, at first you're thinking about what are things that I can control. Whenever I clean up my room, if I do my homework, right? But then you really start thinking deeper, right? You have the ability to control if you want things to be mediocre, or if you want things to be excellent. You want things to be excellent, that's your choice. Now that you've made that choice, now you got to put in the work to make sure that what you're doing is excellent, because that is something you have the ability to control. Your achievement of excellence is not dependent on anybody outside of this house. It's not dependent on me. It's all on you, right? And it's the same thing for me. And it was such a powerful conversation. That's because deep. I was even sitting there thinking to myself, and I was like, man, hold up.
Yeah, you done spoke to my whole soul.
So yeah, excellence, it's not perfection. And if you're aiming for perfection, you're going to fall and you're going to hit the ground. And my hopes is that that person doesn't hit the ground hard. Because I've been there, right? But when you're aiming for excellence,
that's one reason why I feel like I feel like it's just been really purpose that we do this. We start this together. Because everything that we do together, like, it really shows excellence.
It does.
And
honestly, God is making it a way to where that's what happens.
Yeah, you're right. Because even today, even now, like, this is the second time that I wanted to do what we're doing now and have guests, and it's just us. And like, we set the standard multiple times in multiple areas on multiple levels of what things should look like, and it's only because of what God has put in us.
Right.
And
God doesn't put that same thing in other people.
No. And like, it's just really impactful and that much more powerful to understand that, like, as a unit, as a married couple, like us with the same like mind, we're different, but we still have like same goals and like-mindedness in areas that we want to see change. And man, I hope this helps somebody, because I know everybody's not married, everybody's not in a relationship, but man, I think just having somebody with you to help you and to walk out life, with can make things easier and even more impactful, so growth can happen and people can be changed. And
right. It's about having the right people. It's about having the right relationships.
Yeah.
Because, like I shared with the group, earlier this week, like, the one thing that I was looking for, right, in all the wrong places were just relationships. And I had, like, what I thought were good relationships, right, just based on who I connected with, right? Were they leading me down the wrong path? Absolutely. And did I recognize it? And did God pull me out of that situation? Every single time, thankfully, right? But not all relationships are going to lead you down the path that you need to go.
And I agree with that. And I also want to add that there are some relationships that we encounter that are not good for us, but they have to happen.
Absolutely.
so that way we can be developed.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
man, and that would be the reason why I was saying, like, even some of the bad relationships I had, not just like coupled with somebody, but just like interacting with somebody.
Yeah.
Like, they had to happen because now I have to learn, how the enemy may work a certain way,
Yes.
so I can be able to kind of
Yes.
not just manage my own emotions, but able to help somebody else
Yes.
in that area.
I agree.
Because that's like, again, that's why I said again, why I think some of those relationships are even more important than the good ones. Like, the good ones are good. Like, we know how to, get to a point where we can feel better about certain things.
Right.
We can cope.
It's easy.
We can cope easily with certain areas of life. We can do that. But how do we actually get better when we are down? How do we actually, pick ourselves up after we've been knocked down, or how do we make a comeback, from being disappointed? Like,
Yeah.
I have to coach myself. I have to sit here and coach myself and like take some real steps to like get back at it. Because being disappointed is a huge area for me. And I shared with the men when we were talking a few nights ago, like, it's just certain areas like that I have to realize that I have to really turn over to God, and again, like, really understand what God said and take some practical steps to walk that out.
Yes.
Because I could sit here and think about it, I could speak it, but I need to put a little bit more action into whatever it is that God said about me. He said I'm the head, not the tail. Well, let me try to really incorporate that into some action for myself personally. I'm an action-oriented person. Like, what can I do to help me understand that I am the head and not the tail? Well, first of all, let me actually pick myself up and do something that I know that God has given me that I have control over.
Yep.
And then I can know that He's putting me here in this place, like, to set this stuff up, to put the stuff together, make sure I talk to the right people. I ask people to help me, pray for me. Like, those are my action steps.
Right.
So I can understand that now I can walk it out. And through that process, taking charge of it from that area, that angle, now I'm better.
Yes. And that's awesome, because that's something you have the ability to control, right? That's not something that I can do for you. But now, self-talk is so important, and it can be helpful. It can also be incredibly detrimental, right? When I was in my training yesterday, right, I'm sitting here running back in my mind the things that I learned the year before, right? And I was like, if I'm going to go into this again, I can't go into into it with the same mindset that I had last year. Because what I had last year was, what am I doing? Right? This year, I'm walking into it saying, this is something that I'm purposed to do, and it's not something I'm going to learn in just 1 year.
I think that's a good stopping point, because we got kids crying. So we're going to do what parents do, and we're going to be back at it very soon. Thank y'all for tuning in.
Yes, thank you.
And we're going to do this again, me and my beautiful wife.
Maybe with a babysitter this time.
Maybe with a babysitter, or just, having kids outside. Back at it again whenever we see you again.